town Tuesday night to take on the Portland Trailblazers in a preseason game at the Keg. What an event that was. A lot of fun I had. I sat in the first row for that one behind the C unit section, first row. A lot of fun. Trevor was there. Got to talk to Damian Lillard a bit. You know, just kind of more me shouting at Damian Lillard than Damian Lillard talking to me. But, you know, always good to make fun of Robin Lopez. You throw it back to the C unit a few years ago, having the picture of Robin Lopez and Brooke Lopez in a bathtub as kids, naked. And someone befriended them on Facebook in the C unit, and they found a baby picture, and we posted that up in the C unit, and it got on national TV. One of the better C unit things to come out of this school. Anyways, that was a lot of fun. Nuggets suck. They do this year. And you're wearing a Nuggets hat. Do you have contrary to that belief, Marco?
I'm not optimistic, but you know, it's Ty Lawson. Anything's possible.
I guess Gary Harris and Ty Lawson didn't play in that game.
Yeah. I mean, this preseason.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're in purgatory right now.
Yeah.
I'm feeling anywhere between 8 and 11 seed.
Ooh.
Post Masai Ujiri.
So you're like the Atlanta Hawks of the Western Conference.
The Hawks are doing good this year.
They're
going to be like
limbo.
the 6th seed every year.
Yeah.
That's what they are. Anyways, welcome into the Silver and Gold Show. This is episode 9, the Tedric Thompson edition. We were going to do the Charles Johnson edition, and then due to the unfortunate events that happened Saturday in the football game in overtime that really killed our momentum, but more importantly, Tedric Thompson, from what we were hearing, all tests came back negative, and he's going to be okay. But McIntyre said he was scared himself. I know we were scared. He's a hell of a football player. Second in our team in tackles. He's been all over the field. He's been really impressive this year, and we want to wish him well and welcome you into the Silver and Gold Show, episode number 9, the Tedric Thompson edition. I am Jake Shapiro. That to my left is
Trevor McKinney.
And to my right,
Marco Medlin.
Yes. That's who we are. We are who we think we are. Denny Green. That's the fourth week in a row we've done that.
But it actually has relevance because we kind of are what we thought the Buffs were.
Well, we thought we were going to win more games. Speaking of that, Buffs' preseason goal for this year was to reach a bowl game. If you read that Kyle Ringo article, that started out kind of funny on the Daily Camera.
We only got 4 more wins to go.
Yeah, we got to go 4-0 the rest of the season, and I am feeling optimistic. You have Arizona ranked, at Oregon ranked, Utah ranked, and this week you have Washington coming in, who hasn't been that good, but we're still 4-point underdogs in that one. We'll get into that one in a bit, but for now, let's talk about the ranked Bruins, number 25, who came in here this week. Won 40-37 in double overtime. Double the heartbreak for the Buffs, I guess, and us, anyone that was in the stands or watching on their game cast. So that was brutal. And the game started out in the most fantastic fashion it could possibly start out for if you were rooting for the 63-17 Bruins rout that I predicted. Wow, was I wrong in this one. The Bruins started out this game 17-0, but on the second play from scrimmage from them, the first play from scrimmage was a holding call, so they started out 1st and 20. Paul Perkins took it 90-plus yards to the house. Second longest rushing play in Buffs history. The previous was 94 yards from Fresno State a few years back. So Paul Perkins is pretty damn good, is what we learned in this game. If you didn't already know that, Brett Hundley is very damn good too. He was contained pretty much from the Buffs. We'll talk about that. But we want to talk about the alarm clock the Buffs have not been setting at the right time, because the Buffs came right back out in the second quarter, looked really good, took that quarter 14-7, pulled within 2 scores at halftime.
Could have been one.
And it could have been one. That's the main story from this game, was spike the damn fucking football. That was my first F-bomb on this podcast, but god damn it was I pissed off.
Not as much as Coach Mack.
Show me that gif of him saying spike the fucking football one more time. Please dial that up. Third quarter, UCLA took 7-0. Again, the story is set the alarm clock. Come on, Buffs. I even have a Buffalo's alarm clock. Why can't we get these players hooked up? Is that impermissible benefits? I don't know. I'm not about it. I almost did do that, though. I almost did commit one of those benefit things, though, because I was giving out T-shirts being the student section person to all the players this week, and I had to make them take a picture with me because I was doing that for everyone else. The Spruce Moose, hashtag Spruce Moose. Were awesome. They inversed the Bruins in the first quarter, went 17-0, had opportunities to win this ball game in that quarter. There was an unfortunate turnover from Seppo Lufau and forced overtime on a Will Oliver field goal, who was very clutch in this game. Nervously to all of us, but he was clutch, and he hit. Right, surprisingly would be a better word, but he did hit his field goals he needed to hit in this game, and he's a few field goals short, or a few extra points short of now 100 straight, which is kind of ridiculous if you were,
For college.
For college,
Yeah.
Hashtag college kickers. Oh, I'm going all out on the hashtags today. On a verbal thing here. Buffs go into double overtime with the Bruins. Bruins kick a field goal, then the Buffs kick a field goal. Could have gone for it there and maybe scored, but we'll talk about that too. And then the Buffs got the ball back in double overtime, kicked another field goal. Again from Will Oliver's non-favorable hash. And then Brett Hundley decided, I'm not going to be contained by this Buffs defense anymore, and I'm going to win this game. Went for the pylon one, got stopped really short, and then went straight up the middle and clinched the game for UCLA, winning by 3. The Buffs are now, let's see. It was interesting because the Buffs do not do well in overtime. They're 0-2 this year already. Both games going to double overtime. But the Buffs are... where is this stat? Jeez.
They're really bad.
They're really bad. They're under 500 in overtime all time.
I want to say it's like 2-6 or something.
I think it was 5-6 was actually the record, but
that's not even that bad.
Oh, it's 5-7. 5-7. It's 5-7 in OT. 0-2 this year. The game time was 3:53, which tied the fourth longest game in Buffs history. This is the second straight coin toss they lost, which is interesting because they won the first six straight. So I guess the odds are coming back.
Well, last year I remember we didn't win one until like week 12 or something.
So we're doing the opposite on the coin toss. So all of you you prop bettors out there, keep note. One of the really fun things from this game that I loved was the new tradition. The Colorado football players carried out the USA and Colorado flags out of the locker room behind Ralphie, and I love that, especially just show as much Colorado pride as you can because we are Colorado's football school and Colorado's premier school, even though we will not go to the bowl game this year, and someone else will from Colorado, unfortunately.
Probably 2 schools.
Who's the second? Air Force?
Air Force.
Yeah. All right, more interesting things of notes from the Colorado game. I guess the quickly notes of the section that Dave Flatty writes, the SID there. If you didn't know, Dave Flatty also is the score keeper at the Rockies games. So
At least he's not the scorekeeper at the Broncos games because Peyton Manning would have murdered him.
A scoreboard operator.
Yeah, whatever.
There's a huge difference.
Okay.
See, and I know who operates the scoreboard at Folsom Field, who doesn't do a fantastic job. But I should probably stop saying all this shitty stuff on the podcast. I'm gonna delete half this podcast. Holy shit.
Dude, why don't we just... Alright,
To get to the actual game now, instead of weird things that Colorado is or isn't doing, UCLA is 8-2 all time against the Buffs now. Killing it versus the Buffs, really, for that matter. The first real talking point we want to get into is the spike it, non-spike it, spike it, non-spike it. We do all agree, I think, that the Pac-12 refs did screw that up, that Dede Goodson did get out of bounds and the clock should have stopped rather than be reset after the first down.
Or at least clarify with both teams.
Right. If you don't know what happened, Dede Goodson caught a ball and his forward progress was semi-stopped as he was going out of bounds. And it was for a first down with about 17 seconds left in the first half. After the Buffs had just got a turnover from a strip sack from Derek McCartney on Brett Hundley. Huge play. And the Buffs had just scored a touchdown before that. So all the momentum's in the Buffs' favor. So Dede Goodson may or may not have gone out of bounds. The coaching staff for the Buffs believes the ref signaled to stop the clock. The ref, however, signaled to run the clock after they reset the chains. So the clock starts running. Shea Fields is the first person to notice this, and he's yelling to Sefo to spike it. Then Sefo turns to the ref, is wondering, why is the clock running? And this is with about 13 seconds left. And then Sefo starts clapping and saying, snap it, snap it, snap it, snap it. On the sidelines, however, the entire Buffalo sideline is having a panic attack and yelling, snap it, snap it. McIntyre is going crazy. The fans are going crazy. And this keeps going on for about 10 seconds. And then Stefan Nemba commits a false start in a 10-second runoff. And the Buffs didn't have any timeouts left because they called one timeout to make sure they had a punt return in the first quarter instead of the second quarter, which really does not matter. It's just a free play. And their second timeout was called so that they would have a better defensive alignment, and that's fine. But the first timeout was ridiculously called. And then the third timeout was called on that drive to slow down and make sure they had a good play on a 3rd and 2 with about 50 seconds left to make sure they got into the red zone itself. So one of those timeouts they should have had back, and they should have called there. But my question really is whose fault was that? Was it McIntyre's? Was it Sefo's? Was it really the refs? You can't put yourself in that position, in my mind, for the refs to screw up, because the refs are going to screw up. We've seen these Pac-12 refs screw up time and time again. But whose fault was it? Trevor, what's your opinion?
So I believe that everyone's kind of at fault here. I think that the refs should have explained the situation. Just stop the clock for a second and then restart the clock. We see that all the time with play being reviewed, everything like that. Also, I think that Sefo should have had a little more situational awareness and realized, oh, hey, the clock is running. Let me snap the ball or something. Go up to my line and say, clock's running, snap the ball, and then spike it in the ground, something like that. There had to be something that needed to change.
And one of the big things in my mind that needs to be done, if it hasn't been done, it wasn't being done then, was the Buffs need a sign that everyone on the team knows that's just kill the ball, is throw it into the ground. And I know everyone was signaling throw the ball into the ground, but there needs to be a sign that says, it's either like a motion where your hands come across your neck to kill it, but an interesting thing was, and if you don't know this, college player, I didn't know this, I actually asked Ryan Koenigsberg on Twitter about this, was do college players have headsets? And they don't. Because I was wondering why McIntyre didn't say Sefos, get rid of the ball. Because he had his headset off when he was yelling that. So college players do not have headsets, so no one was in communication with Sefo. However, Sefo wasn't really the issue there because Sefo realized with 13 seconds left that he needed to kill the ball. No one else in the offense was set up or was ready for the ball to be snapped.
Except Shea.
Except for Shea.
Well, I think that although this was a huge problem and there are plenty of people to blame, I don't think we'll see that happen again. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was a big enough play where everyone realized that they screwed up, so I think that they're going to probably make sure that does not happen ever again.
Yeah, if that happens again, some heads are going to be smitten, to say the least.
Castrations will begin.
You. As Xaiver Johnson is on the screen, that somehow fits together. I don't know why. I don't even know, man.
Keep going.
This has been the word football. Oh, this has been a terrible edition.
What's next?
Oh, we're going into missed opportunities. The Buffs had time and time again to win this game in my mind. There's 4 big ones. The first big one was that of which we just talked about, was at the end of the first half. The second was the Buffs had the ball in the fourth quarter. There's Xaiver Johnson again.
We can see that.
The Buffs had the ball in the fourth quarter, and they had time to go on a drive and really put some momentum into the game. And instead, Sefo gets the ball picked off. And the Buffs have to come up with a huge stop, which they did on defense. And then the Buffs got the ball back, and they kicked the game-time field goal. So that, when Sefo had that drive where the ball got picked off, that was a big opportunity I think we missed. Because we did get the ball again, so we would have had that Will Oliver field goal would have won the game. And then the third opportunity was the Will Oliver field goal, the decision not to go for a touchdown there. And then the fourth time was when we had the ball in overtime, and instead of kicking a Will Oliver field goal to tie the game and to put it into double overtime, was maybe going for it. So I know, Trevor, you had some opinions, and Marco, you did too, about all these decisions to not go for it on fourth down and kick the Will Oliver field goals and keep giving your chance to survive in this game. But you did keep this game alive, which, something we did talk about against Cal was for away teams keeping a game alive. And the Buffs did that for the Bruins in this game. However, they were just trying to give themselves a shot to win this game. But like I just said, they had 4 shots to win this game, and I don't think you can let that many opportunities show up. What do you think, Trevor? What do you think about all these opportunities the Buffs had?
I mean, this probably goes against everything I said after the Cal podcast. I was okay with the decisions to kick the field goals both in the fourth quarter and in overtime. I think that since the game had been so clawing back and it took so much time to come back, I think that sending it into overtime initially was the right call. And then in the second overtime, kicking the field goal to get us ahead by 3, that is questionable. I think, personally, I like it because the defense had played pretty well in the second half and parts of the first half as well. So I think trusting your defense like that kind of helps the program move into a different direction and shows that Mac isn't afraid to...
and he's confident in a defense that showed it all day that they were opportunistic and they came up big every time they needed to come up big.
Right, exactly.
So, Marco, what do you think about the decisions to, I guess, say, play it safe on these opportunities? I know one of them was a turnover, but, we lost a lot of opportunities in this game where we had shots really to win it, or, it was miscommunication, like we said, with the play before the end of the first half.
Well, I mean, since we lost, we're going to look back and be nitpicky and say, we could have done this, we could have done that. I will say that, normally when you were an away team and you're playing at, the home team up to their level, you want to just keep yourself in the game no matter what. Tying the game would be completely fine in that situation. But since we were the home team and we were playing a way better team, the fact that we had fought back to that point, I'm more talking at this point about the fourth quarter drive at the very end where we kicked the field goal. I think with the momentum going the way it was, you might just go for the win right there. See if you can just put all your balls in one court or on the court, and just throw it out there. See what you can do. And you don't get it, we lost. But if we look back, if we lost like that, and we'd be yelling at that too.
McIntyre and the alumni would be mad at McIntyre when everyone is actually pretty pleased with the outcome of this game. I know I am, and I know
double overtime loss to UCLA.
To a ranked team when we've never beat a ranked team in Pac-12 play. We're 0 for our last 14 or 17 in those. But someone made a really good point on Twitter. It was one of the Ralphie Report guys. They said, "What do you have to lose? You're not playing for a Pac-12 championship here. You're playing just to win. Who's going to remember a 3-point loss, or when you competed with UCLA? If we win that game, it's 86 Nebraska all over again."
I would disagree. Just because the way that Pac-12 has been playing this year, especially the home teams, it's pretty much a crapshoot. And I know that we've said what do you have to lose all year, especially saying going forward on fourth down and things like that. But I mean, if we won this game in overtime, it wouldn't have even mattered. We would have said absolutely nothing about going for it in the fourth quarter. So I think that just because we didn't go for it doesn't mean that it's bad. I think it's just being nitpicky, saying, because right now we don't have the opportunity to choose when to win.
Right, and you know what? We just watched this episode of South Park, Captain Hindsight. It's 2020,
exactly.
Baby. And I think that's a good point, and it doesn't change my opinions on it. I think, we need to put all of our balls on the court every single game, every single play, and not settle for field goals. But, I really understand where they're coming from, and I do really agree with McIntyre's coaching style, so I'm not going to really completely disagree with it at the same time. Going to the next thing, which bounces off of this, is UCLA. Are they a good football team? They have a hell of a lot of talent, but can you really let a team like the Buffs that many chances to win? If you're a good football team, we saw USC, who going into this year wasn't as good of a football team as UCLA, But USC killed us last week. They didn't even give us a shot to win that game. They said, we're scoring, 28 in the first quarter. UCLA scored 17 in the first quarter, and we're not giving the Buffs a shot. So, Marco, your opinions on UCLA, they certainly have a hell of a lot of talent. Jordan Payton, Brett Hundley, Paul Perkins, just on the offensive side alone. Miles Jack on the defensive side, offensive side. Freshman of the year, offense and defense. But, are they a good football team?
I mean, as you said, they've got all the talent. So on paper, you look at them, you got to say they're a great football team. But you watch them play, and they play kind of to the competition. And I don't know. I mean, time will tell with them. They
have a shot to win the Pac-12 South still.
Exactly, and I think they're a very good team, but they haven't proven it so much so far. So we'll see.
This is, in my opinion, I think they're a farm team for the NFL. They have so many players who could be stars in the NFL, could be starters and play for a long time in the league, but I don't know if they have the capabilities as a college team to be that great.
Right, and I think a really good example of that is you compare Jordan Payton to Nelson Spruce. Nelson Spruce's numbers are off the charts compared to Jordan Payton's. But you look at the way Jordan Payton plays football, and you know that guy is going to be a hell of a wide receiver in the NFL. Marco's more of an NFL guy than I am, and really thinks more, is this player going to succeed or not succeed in the NFL, whereas I'm just happy in college. We always debate about Johnny Manziel. I always say it's good enough that he had a good college career, and Marco always says about the NFL. So, Marco, I want to get your opinion on Jordan Payton because you're really good at seeing whether guys will translate or not, and you've seen Jordan Payton play a few times this year.
Well, yeah, I do think what you look for in a wide receiver when you're looking for, as far as is their talent going to translate to the NFL, you look as far as what separation are they getting from the line of scrimmage? How are they running their routes? Are they quick cuts? Do they know are they having fluidity with their cuts and everything? And just the way he runs, obviously you're going to get good separation if there's not great cornerbacks and in secondary and stuff. But the way that he runs, he just looks like an NFL player. He's not just getting those deep passes that he's just wide open for. I mean, he's getting those because he's fast, but he's able to actually break away and make NFL catches and use his body in ways to actually shield himself from preventing I just see great plays from all around.
Yeah, and one of the guys, same boat as that, and we won't get into it as much because we all know Brett Hundley's a hell of a player, but Cephas' numbers are better than Brett Hundley's right now. But we all know Brett Hundley's going to be a hell of a player. Me and Trevor almost spent our entire game looking at Brett Hundley and thinking about his NFL career in the future. So this was actually the first game I did sit with Trevor. We sat with Matt Smith in the second half. Always nice to sit with Matt. Intelligent football mind. One of the big points he brought up, talking about the defense, he was so impressed with the play of Josh Tupou, and I really keyed in on it. And he looked really good. And there were a couple guys on the defense that looked really good. And my all-star from the game in total, offense or defensive side of the ball, was Kenneth Oglebode. He made some huge plays in this game on that. The last time UCLA had the ball on that 3-and-out, Oglebode was the key to that stop. Really, he was great in this game. He had 6 tackles, all solo tackles. He had 1 tackle for a loss for 3 yards, and he recovered the fumble that McCartney stripped. So he looked really good, and Yogi Roth on Pac-12 Network saying about Oglebode, he was saying how he's kind of like a spread linebacker, how he can kind of go back and forth from secondary to linebacking position. And we've seen this from Oglebode and a few other linebackers on the Buffs. Maybe it's just because they're smaller and we don't get the biggest guys. But you know what? We do have a lot of speed in the linebacking corps between Day, who's a little bit older, Gillum, and Oglebode, and sometimes even Walker when he does play. So, but with that brings us, if you guys want to talk about, your impressive pieces of defense, but I think we all agree Oglebode was the standout in this game.
I was really impressed with Tedric Thompson again. I mean, the guy is just everywhere on the field, it seems like, always making tackles. He always seems to know where to be as a safety, and I think that, if he can stay healthy and keep getting reps week after week, I think that, he could be a top secondary guy, in the nation.
He can be an All-American, or not an All-American, but at least an All Pac-12 guy.
you could almost create a new position just for him, like that
For
linebacking.
the way our defensive plays too. And you know what? Me and Trevor were looking at this too. The formations we were running on the defensive side of the ball, it did cause some confusion because we lined up wrong once, which was the 92-yard Perkins run. And McIntyre said we didn't line up wrong once all week in practice. And of course they did it during the game. But it was really interesting because they ran a lot of new defensive formations where they were running 4 down linemen and just one linebacker and then a bunch of guys in the secondary. It was really interesting to see their defensive formations in this game.
Andrew Andrews.
How do you name your kid Andrew?
Oh, that's what you guys were laughing at?
It's like naming your kid Cam Cameron.
Oh, well, I was laughing at the fact that he was wearing a jacket vest.
This guy's just weird.
Yeah.
He's really good.
2.0.
This is like the Pac-12 All-Stars. They went to China.
How the fuck is X an
Did
All-Star?
you not just see Xaiver Johnson have the most booty had me like face ever?
Oh yeah.
And
then I saw him jumping in midair and having his dreads just like shake up and down.
All right, we'll talk about basketball in one more second here. We're so pumped for this. But talk about the defense, and you really there's no other point, but I mean there's a few other points, but you know the main point really is Tedric Thompson. We hope he gets well. We said that. Another point is Addison Gillum, who left this game due to the flu, not a concussion. From what I am hearing,
Ebola.
No, please no. From what I am hearing, Addison Gillum has had 1 concussion this year. Not 2. I cannot confirm or really deny or really get any confirmation from this. But this is from what I've kind of heard from around the program is Addison Gillum had 1 concussion the first time he was concussed. In that game where he got blown up in Oregon State, he came out for precautionary reasons. He didn't actually have a concussion there. So Addison Gillum is a lot cleared up from what I've heard. And he looks to play if he's not got the flu next week. And I don't think the flu lasts 2 weeks. He'll be better next week, and that'll be good to see. Shane Mosley in this game looked like he tore his entire knee to shreds on a play. That was very early on, so we hope he's okay in this game.
That's a way to be nice about it. He tore his entire knee to shreds.
Well, I mean, what else do you want to say? I'm not a doctor. I can't say he tore his ACL. I mean, he did something really bad to his knee. Right now they've listed his day-to-day, so maybe not, but that'll be okay. And another one would be interesting. Would be Christian Paul if he plays next week, and Crab on the offensive line, both guys that didn't play in this game. So we look to see the Buffs get healthy against Washington next week, or get healthy before Washington next week. We got 2 more points here on the Buffs. The offense would be one of them, and I thought the offense was pretty impressive in this game. They kept moving the ball was the impressive part. They had 500 total yards on the dot again. They've done that a few times this year. It's been impressive to see that. But on second and under 4 yards, they were 11 for 13 on the game. The unfortunate stat for first down efficiency was they were 3 for 16 on third downs, but they were 2 for 2 on fourth down conversions, so that was nice to see. We talked about the Bruins last week, how they sucked on third downs, and they continue that trend this week. But the Buffs kind of followed the Bruins in that trend and were not very good on third down. They had 267 passing yards, the Buffs did, and 233 on the ground, led by Michael Adkins, who had 17 for 107 and TD, 6.3 a carry. And he's looking healthy again, and it's good to see because he is really he's another running back when he's healthy. Because we were totally against Michael Adkins 3 weeks ago, and now I'm totally for him again.
Homer.
Yes, we're all homers. That's literally how we started the first podcast ever. Is we are skewed by that Rocky Mountain water. We are the biggest homers you can find. Tony Jones looked good, 17 for 68. He had 1 really nice run where he broke 6 tackles. He had a touchdown in this game. Philip Lindsay only had 3 carries. He had 22 yards. Give Uncle Phil the ball. Please, Mike McIntyre. He is awesome. I ran into him at Buff Stampede, and he's a really nice guy. We had a funny conversation. Hit me up on Twitter if you want to hear about that. Or hit us up on Twitter, I should say, at Silver Gold Show. You can find us there. We will give you all the details on the weird things, the campus sightings of random athletes we always see. I saw Nicole Edelman on campus the other day, and she is drop dead gorgeous. I had to get that in there. I'm sorry. It's just so creepy. It's so creepy. She's so much taller than me, too.
Jake, stop talking.
The special teams, we looked pretty good on special teams considering they have Ishmael Adams, who is really good. He only had one opportunity on the kick return. He had 8 yards on that, and he only had 2 punt returns for 18 yards. So we did a really good job on the special teams side of the ball there. And you know, Dara O'Neal was averaging 39 yards a punt, which is just okay.
Some punts were good, some were bad.
Yeah, I mean, he's losing the Heisman voting candidacy quickly here. Will Oliver, like we said, very, very good in this game. 3 for 3 with 4 straight extra points. So, you know, a lot of good from this game, I think, if you want to talk about it overall. To take away, I was very, very happy about this game when walking out of the stadium. I could not be more happy if you really thought it. I mean, me and Trevor were sitting in the south end zone. We were getting ready to jump on the field there and tear down the goalposts. We were going to be those idiots, but, you know.
I think that this game put Colorado back on the map. It said that we're not that team that's just going to be your blowout win where all your starters only play a half. You know, I think this kind of showed the nation that, you know, a couple years, we're going to be good.
Mariota's going to have to play 3 quarters against us.
Yeah.
Well, and we talked about it last week, that the fact that we expected us to come out a little bit stronger against USC and show that we aren't going to get blown out by teams that are way better than us. And I, honestly, after what we did last week, I expected us to come out and completely get blown out of the water by UCLA.
Yeah.
And we proved, like we kind of have throughout the season, apart from the USC game, that, you know, we can compete with most of the teams, Pac-12 or other. So I think that's good to see. That's what I take away from the game. I mean, obviously, you'd like to get a win, but it's UCLA.
Take what you can get against the ranked team.
Yeah, this was the best of a bad scenario.
Absolutely. I like early in the game when we were down, I thought.
I know we've been people that have been way more positive than maybe we should at times, but you know, if you're looking at this, there's no way you can really think negatively. Yes, we had chances to win this game. Yes, we probably should have won this game. And we've said that about like 8 games this year or whatever. I don't even know. Just a game, time and time again, we've said that we should have won the game, you know? We've said it. But you're playing against a team that is immensely talented, that has way bigger players than you, that has all of the recruits in the world. And you take them to double overtime. Yes, it's at your home field. But you were supposed to lose by 2 touchdowns. So you're a fan, and how could you be upset? Everything's pointing in the right direction. 2 years ago, we were getting blown out in game. You know, the average margin of defeat was almost 3 touchdowns. Last year, it was 2 touchdowns. Now, it's a field goal. How could you not be happy? You know, like
with 2 games going into double overtime.
Right.
With really, really quality opponents.
Yeah.
One that might win the Pac-12 North, you know, granted what happens there with Oregon, and then one that might win the Pac-12 South, although we can't predict anything and neither can anyone else. Sorry, Yogi Roth and Mike Yam over there at Pac-12 Networks, because I don't think anyone can, and they're the experts, because those are my guys. Those are my guys for Pac-12 coverage. Speaking of Pac-12 in general, let's just jump into this because we've talked enough about this football game where we should talk about something else, I think. Pac-12 scores from around the Pac-12. Stanford beat Oregon State 38-14. Big blowout there. Arizona continues to look very, very good. 59-17 or 59-37 against Wazoo. And that's maybe the season of destiny, maybe still continuing as I'm calling it. Utah storms the field as they beat USC 24-21. ASU played Washington in Seattle for one of the windiest games I've ever seen. ASU wins 24-10, and they are actually the highest-ranked team in the besides Oregon in the Pac-12 right now, which is actually surprising considering Arizona's been so good. Oregon beat Cal 59-41, and like I just alluded to, depending on what happened with Oregon-Cal, you know, that's what I was alluding to was that game, and Oregon won it. So it seems like Oregon's kind of a lock for the Pac-12 North at this point, depending on whether Stanford can really, you know, upset them or not, and I'm on TV again. But I sit in the first row of the student section. I'm going to be on TV a lot. I'm sorry, Marco.
Right, so you should be used to it by now.
Yeah, sorry. What did you say? What did you say?
Tedric.
Wait,
so
is Kelly still out, or is he back?
Taylor Kelly came back.
Okay.
He had a QBR of 14.8.
Dude, there's no way we can bring up our actual, like, we can't get into that argument.
Okay.
It would be like a whole hour.
We all 3 have different views.
That's why we're all on the podcast, because we all 3 have different views on Johnny Manziel.
That's my birthday.
Nice.
That was the day Xaiver Johnson
Was in Beijing.
He's Xaiver Johnson. He has as many dreads as he does
I've
girlfriends.
seen him get picked up by so many chicks around the hill, just like Jones out here, just get picked up by.
What's up with that, by the way? Skia Booker with the car.
Yeah.
I
Well,
talked
have
to
you
some
seen
people
that
about
car?
that.
No, I saw him driving around a brand new Dodge Challenger.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
lives on my street.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
And like
What
I
is
see it
it?
all the time. Yeah, and it's so nice, you guys. It's such a nice car.
So I mean,
Ash-
you talked around and
At Silver Gold Show, find all the latest campus sightings of players maybe taking gifts or not. Brings us into that. Actually, is a really good transition because I mean, obviously, Skia Booker did not take gifts. I'd be the first to know, probably. Actually, I do.
Why would we give him a gift?
Yeah,
I
Skia Booker is really good at giving gifts, aka
Why would you want to ruin
turnovers.
our program for that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Xaiver Johnson throwing this duck face up there on the Great Wall. What is this? Why is Xavier? I mean,
I'm kind
come
of
on.
entertained by it.
It's
It's actually pretty funny.
Yeah.
Bunch of black guys.
Dude, most of them are white. Well,
I
some of
know.
them are.
all right. We're gonna keep the volume of this on in the background now for the rest of the show. This is the Pac-12 basketball trip to
I actually think that's illegal
what?
because you're technically paying for that.
Yeah.
Well, they can't hear it enough. It's where it's not.
Then why do we have it on?
Because we can hear it, but the people listening.
All
can
right.
All right, we're watching the Pac-12 All-Stars take on the teams in China, which has Xaiver Johnson, which we've mentioned a few times, why he's on our screen right now. So we have that in the background in case there's a little background noise, but we were interested to see what's going on here as we're all together because we're really interested in basketball season. And that really brings us to our next point of the scrimmage here. I attended, and there was some really bad play and some really good play from this scrimmage. A Skia Booker looked kind of like a Skia Booker, which is not a good sign. He didn't look like he made a huge stretch or a huge improvement. By far the best player on the court, in my mind, was Josh Fortune. Please let him play. Get him a waiver. I know it's not happening, but just do it. Trayshawn Fletcher looked really good. Scott looked solid. What's his name? Dominique Collier. That's his name. He didn't play. He's still hurt with a wrist injury. He should be fine for the regular season. But the guys looked like they still had a few weeks of practice left, and they looked like they were playing in front of fans for the first time. I would take that game with kind of a grain of salt. I wouldn't really read too much into that game, as we said about the USC game last week for the football team. It's just not something that you read a lot into for a few reasons, and that being, it's the first time they played in front of fans. They had all these nerves. I know they've scrimmaged against each other before and together, but it's the first time they're doing it in an environment that's not maybe pure, I would say.
Practice.
A closed, right. So, take it with a grain of salt if you were there, because we did not look fantastic. And, here's the Buffs game. And I'm friends with some of the guys that work in the media and have been to practices, and they say the Buffs team so far has looked a completely different team in the closed-door practices than they have than they did at that scrimmage. But, it was really fun to see and see the improvement of some of these guys. Let's talk about next week. Next week we have Washington coming in here, but let's throw it around the Pac-12 first. We got USC playing Washington State. USC 7.5-point favorites in that game on Pac-12 Network. Stanford, Oregon, that's going to be the game of the day on Fox. Oregon's 10.5-point favorites. And then you have Oregon State, Cal. Oregon State's 4.5-point favorites there. Arizona at UCLA. That'll be a fun game to watch. UCLA is a 4.5-point favorite. 14 versus 25 there. And then Utah versus Arizona State, 18 versus 15 with both of those games. Huge Pac-12 South implications. A lot is going to be decided in the Pac-12 South this week. And for my mind, both of those games are toss-ups and to see who wins those games. Arizona is the next opponent we play after Washington, so we'll be watching that game closely, I should say. And then Utah we play later this season, so we'll be watching that game closely to see what those two teams do. Throwing it out to the Buffs for this week, we got Washington coming in here, who have been a weird football team, to say the least, this year. Washington is 5-3, but 1-3 in Pac-12 play. Washington has played 3 different quarterbacks this year and have had 4 different starting running backs this year. So very interesting things going on there with Washington. Their best player, one of my favorite players in the Pac-12, Shaq Thompson, who is basically this year's Miles Jack. He goes both ways. Plays middle linebacker and gets a few carries at running back. He's a really nice player to watch. Huskies are 25 of 27 in the red zone. That's a major thing to look out for with 17 TDs, 13 on the ground, 11 in the air. Their defense might be the best in the Pac-12. They have only they have forced I guess they have gotten 6 defensive touchdowns would be the best way to say it. 37% of the time they get off, or 37% of the time they're letting offenses convert on third down. So they are really good at getting off the field too. So hopefully the Washington Huskies don't have the ball the entire game. They are 4-point favorites. Last time I looked, now they're 5-point favorites, 5.5-point favorites. So
it just keeps going up.
It just keeps going up. So get those bets in on the Buffs because this might be our chance. This is probably our best chance to win a game the rest of the year. We said that a few weeks ago.
FYI, people, whenever Jake Shapiro tells you to bet on something,
bet on the other thing.
Yeah, just don't.
Just bet on the other thing. I actually had the Buffs this weekend, so that was the first time I actually won on the Buffs this year. Washington's plus 11 in the turnover battle this year, so they've done really well on the keeping the ball and not getting or taking the ball away from the other teams. From our standpoint, Trevor, Marco, what are you looking for next week from the Colorado Buffaloes?
Looking for a win. I think that this week is a must-win situation. We're facing a team that we can beat, that we should beat. We've showed the Pac-12 that we can fight with the other guys, with the UCLAs.
UCLA's, the Cals, the all of them.
Yeah, I'm looking for a W against Washington. I mean, as I said, it's a must-win. I don't see us beating Oregon in any way. It might be a close game with Utah, but this is our last real winnable game, so we better go out there and put everything out on the line.
And even then, we're at home and we're not favorited, so it's not like we're expected to win this game. It's just a winnable game, I think is the key thing to say there. But yeah, that's what we're looking for next week. I don't even want to predict the score because I was embarrassed last week.
I got it.
All right, you go for it.
All right, I have 41-35 CU.
Wow. Buffs win. Buffs win.
Buffs win. And Larry Zimmer comes back as well.
Ooh, big predictions
Hopefully.
for this guy. Love to see that. Marco,
I'm going to go, 28-24 Buffs. I think it's going to be actually kind of a slower game. Not really defensive battle, but just kind of a slow game where points really are hard to come by.
Did you guys see this? Dennis Queensberry, who played for the Texans, who had the ALS thing or whatever, he played for McIntyre at San Jose State, and they were all wearing DQ helmets, DQ on their helmets.
That's what that was.
Yeah, this is really cool.
They're sponsored by Dairy Queen.
No, but this is really cool, and he was on the sidelines. I'll actually keep this part on the podcast because I think that was something we should mention. But yeah, that was really cool. Anyways, one of the last things I want to talk about before I make my predictions is this Tony Jones quote. I think all of the Buffalo community saw it. It was on our friend Ryan's Facebook page is the one who made the big impact of it on social media. But Tony Jones said after the game, "My belief will never be damaged. I love these guys, man. I went through spring and summer training with these guys. Blood, sweat, and tears, man. I will never stop trusting these guys. I trust these guys every day of my life. I will never lose belief in them. I always have faith in my team. I will always have faith in our coaches, and I will always have faith in this school," which is awesome to hear. I will always have faith in this school too, and that's why I'm predicting a Buffaloes win. I am not predicting a score because I will not get embarrassed, but I think we are going to get some
W from W.
Some W's. So we're going to end the podcast like that because we're silly and stupid, and that's probably why you listen to us.
And we have to do homework.
Except
Marco.
I'm actually watching the Minnesota Wild game with a girl tomorrow, so I got to get some sleep for that. Got to rest up, know my knowledge of the Minnesota Wild. Charlie Coyle, Tony Monte's nephew. Or cousin. That's so meaningless to this podcast. I know more random stuff than anyone.
That's this week's podcast.
Yes, find us on Twitter, Silver Gold Show, WordPress, SoundCloud. I got it right once. Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher. I didn't post last week's on YouTube because I got lazy. But we'll do it again at some point. We'll post them on YouTube, at JakeChef479. But follow us at Silver Gold Show everywhere else. That's it for number 9, the Tedric Thompson edition. Please be healthy, Tedric Thompson. I'm a big Friday Night Lights guy, and every time I see someone go down like that, I think Jason Street, and that's just not something you want to think. Anyways, Buffs, Washington, right after Halloween, Saturday morning at 11 in the morning on Pac-12 Networks.
We know you'll all be there.
I'll feel like crap. Hungover and hot off the presses from your hopeful getting it in Friday night. We hope everyone gets it in that listens to the Silver and Gold Show. Don't do that.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everyone. Go Buffs. We'll talk to you next week.